I see a light inside of you, so let it shine. It's time to spread your wings and fly. Reach for the sky. Get up, don't let nothing hold you. Get up right now, right now. Get up, don't let nobody tell you that you can't. There is greatness inside of you. You're the one that the world is waiting for. Every step you take, we go again. 'Cause we believe in you. Say one day you go make a one day, one day, one day. One day, one day, one day. Don't let nothing push you down. Stand with the ground. Yes, we believe in you. Yeah. Don't you give up on yourself till the world knows who you are. Keep on shining. Get up, don't let nothing hold you. Get up right now, right now. Get up, don't let nobody tell you that you can't. There is greatness inside of you. You're the one that the world is waiting for. Every step you take, we go again. 'Cause we believe in you. Say one day you go make a one day, one day, one day. One day, one day, one day. One day you'll be like the sun. Say one day you go shine.
Access, more than banking.
Many people settle for enough income to get by, enough savings to feel safe, and enough comfort to avoid taking risks. But enough is not always enough, especially for women, because our dreams are bigger, our responsibilities are heavier, and the next generation is watching us.
It's not just about making money today. It's about building a financial legacy that lasts. One that can weather challenges, one that grows over time. One that doesn't stop with you, but continues for your children and your children's children.
This is why the W Initiative of Access Bank, in partnership with Coronation Group, is inviting you to an exclusive webinar titled Building a Financial Legacy, Creating, Protecting, and Transferring Wealth, designed to show women how to move beyond the comfort zone of just enough into the confidence of building more than enough.
You'll learn how to create and protect your wealth, make informed investment decisions, and put the right structures in place to secure your legacy. This webinar is scheduled to hold on Thursday, August 21st at 3 p.m. Whether you're just starting your financial journey or looking to refine what you've built, this session will give you the clarity and tools you need.
Our goal in the W Initiative of Access Bank is to empower women to live in holistic wellness, financially, emotionally, and mentally. We believe that true empowerment means having not just the resources to survive, but the knowledge, confidence, and systems to create generational impact. Sign up now using the link on your screen.
See you there.
I see a light inside of you, so let it shine. It's time to spread your wings and fly. Reach for the sky. Get up, don't let nothing hold you. Get up right now, right now. Get up, don't let nobody tell you that you can't. There is greatness inside of you. You're the one that the world is waiting for. Every step you take, we go again. 'Cause we believe in you. Say one day you go make a one day, one day, one day. One day, one day, one day.
Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Temitope Adenaike from Coronation Group Limited, and it is my pleasure to welcome you to today's webinar titled Building a Financial Legacy, Creating, Protecting, and Transferring Wealth with Confidence. This morning, while I was strolling on the streets of Instagram, I saw a meme that had a quote that resonated with me. And it says that women should take their financial life very seriously, make a lot of money, because the world can be very cruel to poor women. And I always say that the word to use is not can, it is that the world is very cruel to poor women. And this quote, for me, underscores the reality that financial independence is not just about comfort, it is about dignity, freedom, and security. A truth that not only that does not apply to only women. And it is on this basis that the W initiative of Access Bank and in collaboration with Coronation Group have put together this webinar. In Nigeria today, it is often said that Nigerians do not like to invest because we have a low participation of investors in the capital markets. However, the conversation has always been because there is no money. We all understand what the current economic realities are. Fuel is about 1,000 naira per liter. Inflation is at about 21.88%. Everybody has more or less been moved to band A. Exchange rate is about 1,500 naira, if not more. There was a time where exchange rate was about 1,900. Now, but despite all of this data that I have reeled out, we have about 65 million Nigerians actively engaging in betting. That's about 30% of the Nigerian population. 14 million bets are placed on a daily basis, and NIBS has said that that's about 11% of the daily e-payment transaction that is processed daily. $15 is the average amount Nigerians spend on betting. That's 7 times the daily amount that is spent on food. So that's to tell us that it is not that Nigerians do not have the funds to invest. It is about misplaced priorities. Now, whilst I've spoken to betting, some people might say that, well, it's only men that bet, even though I beg to differ. But the Ponzi schemes, these schemes actually target women. And about 2 trillion naira has been lost to Ponzi over the past 2 decades. Now, we all know about the recent CBEX collapse that happened just very recently in this year. And that alone wiped out about an estimated 1.3 trillion naira. I'm sure for some of us that are on this webinar, we have people that are close to us that were actually victims of CBEX. A lot of us that are educated, that have the understanding that we should not invest in Ponzi schemes would be surprised at the people around us that actually fell victim to this scheme. And so it is on this basis we looked at we having considered the data and analyzed the data, we said, okay, so it's a case of miscommunication, not having enough education of the potential capital market investors, because about 20% of the female of women actually are the investors in capital markets, and that's out of the 280 million population we have in the country. And so we realized that mutual funds penetration is low, which indicates a substantial untapped opportunities for wealth gain and capital mobilization. In Nigeria, as at August 8, 2025, about 953,562 unit holders, that is the number we have for unit holders across all public investment schemes in the country. And so it is on this basis that we decided that we would hold this webinar in order to educate women, because once you have an educated, when you have women who are financially educated as to what opportunities are available to them in how not to only just make money, but to grow their money and to also leave their money to generations behind them. So this webinar is to serve as a guide as to how women can seek out opportunities for growth, independence, and long wealth creation. And with me today, I have four brilliant women speakers. I have Elizabeth Ekpo. I have Adeolu Idowu, who is Elizabeth Ekpo, who is a seasoned financial expert with over 15 years of experience shaping transparent, resilient, and high-impact capital markets. She partners with government, development institutions, and private enterprises to design and implement strategies that help to unlock capital, accelerate economic growth, and ensure sustainable wealth creation. Her work experience spans across Nigeria, Ethiopia, Ghana, Cameroon, and North America, driving reforms, transforming financial systems, and enabling organizations to achieve their long-term development and profitability goals. She is a strategic advisor whose expertise covers financial markets, valuations, consulting, and nonprofit financing. She has guided companies, entities in raising capital, understands risk management, and helps to establish governance frameworks that would help protect and grow your assets over generations, a critical component of building lasting financial legacies. She's passionate about financial literacy, and that's why she's here with me on this webinar, and committed to equipping individuals and communities with tools to create, protect, and transfer wealth effectively. She's a respected stakeholder strategist who is adept at cultivating enduring relationships with policymakers, institutional investors, and business leaders to create partnerships that deliver measurable long-term value. She had worked with PricewaterhouseCoopers, Nigerian exchange. It used to, the Nigerian exchange, some of us might not know, was formerly called the Nigerian Stock Exchange, KPMG Professional Services, and national regulators. And in her career, she has helped to design policies and initiatives that strengthen financial ecosystems. She's a CFA charter holder and an alumna of the alumnus of the WIMBY's Women on Board program. She holds a BSc in economics and an MSc in financial economics from the University of Sheffield, United Kingdom. Outside of work, she finds inspiration in travel, reading, and exploring diverse cultures, fueling her commitment to lifelong learning and impactful change. Also with me is Olufunke Makinde, Olufunke Olumide, pardon me, please. She's a managing partner at the Legacy House Multifamily Office and also a partner at Equity Partners. She's a seasoned executive and legal advisor with over a decade of experience supporting African families, individuals, and businesses in building sustainable structures for generational wealth success. She's the manager, as I said before, through the Legacy House. She designs tailored trusts, governance systems, and family office structures that reflect the values of Africans and protecting what they have built, creating room for growth across generations. She's also a partner at Equity Partners, a private client advisory firm, and she co-founded the African Family Business Network, a growing platform designed to support African family enterprises. She's also plays a strategic role in WIMBY's corporate planning and dialogues shaping the future of women in law and leadership. She's also a member of Gaia Africa. It's a private club for Africa's top 5% of female leaders. Also with me is Adeolu Idowu. She's a partner at the law firm of Alukwano Ebode, and she heads the private wealth practice. I mean, looking at the profile of my speakers, you'd see that we have brought people, seasoned, experienced people who brings not only the theoretical aspect of financing and investment, but also the practicality of it. And Adeolu Idowu has 3 decades of experience in law across diverse sectors, including private wealth, oil and gas, and telecommunications. She has held significant positions as the first company secretary at MTN Nigeria, oversees corporate governance matters, and she also served as a director legal services at Etisalat Nigeria. She has a lot of experience ranging from corporate governance, risk and compliance, along with a proven track record in implementing effective compliance programs, along with the experience and skills she has garnered at the firm of Alukwano Ebode. So today, also the last speaker, last but not the least, is Chineye Peters. She's a customer experience and process transformation leader who has served in the capital market sector. She has been involved in process optimization and product management and has a proven track record in driving customer-centric transformation. She led the customer experience unit for the capital markets division in the Coronation Group, overseeing customer experience transformation across the asset management, securities, and trustees businesses. And based on our experience, she would be able to talk to us about products that women can access in order to help protect their wealth and also preserve and transfer same. Previously, before she came to Coronation Group, she worked at KPMG as a senior consultant, where she partnered with organizations to design and implement customer experience strategy. So today, this session is to help all of us explore how we can take advantage of the capital markets through stocks and mutual funds and move beyond building wealth to protect and passing them on to the next generation through wills, trusts, and insurance. And I believe that from the insights we're going to get from the speakers today, it will provide us with the opportunity and the chance we need in order to get to work immediately. So first today to speak is Elizabeth. She'll be speaking on investments, insurance, and capital growth. Good afternoon, Elizabeth.
Hi, good afternoon to me, Tope. Thank you very much.
Welcome to today's webinar. How are you doing this afternoon?
I'm fine, I'm doing great. And how are you?
I'm very well, thank you. Okay, that's an impressive CV that I read out earlier, and looking into your experience and what you have done in the past and what you currently do, I was wondering if there's a way women can move from financial comfort to sustain financial asset growth, right? Because we understand that some people, I know that we have different categories of participants on this call, and for the men on the call, I'm sorry, it's not like it's not a segregation. It's just that this is a women-focused webinar, and that's why it appears that I'm just talking about women, right? But I'm sure that you pick up pointers that would also help you in your investment venture. Right. So having said that, we know that we have different categories of women on this in this session, and we have those that are looking to how to grow their money. We have those that are moving from who would like to move from, oh, they are stable, they want to move from that stability to comfort. We have those that want to move from comfort to sustenance of the growth they have acquired. So how would you advise they go about that, please?
Okay, so let me say good afternoon, good evening, or good morning to our participants today, because I believe we have people participating from different parts of the world. So it gives me real great pleasure to be part of this important conversation today on building financial legacy. Because today, when we talk about wealth, we're not just talking about money in bank accounts. We are talking about creating independence, creating freedom, creating resilience, creating opportunities, that can be transferred from one generation to another. And so when you talk about moving from financial comfort to sustained wealth growth, I think I would just like to make a difference, to identify what the difference is between the two. So financial comfort is a good place to be, and it's a place where a lot of people really are right now, where, you have a good job, you have a car, probably have a car, probably are able to travel once in a while, you have some savings in your bank account, and you are relatively able to meet your day-to-day needs without any struggle and stress. And so, and it's a very good place to be, right? But after a while, you realize that financial comfort focuses on just security at one point in time. And so we need to move from financial comfort to sustained wealth growth. And what's sustained wealth growth? On the other hand, sustained wealth growth is basically increasing your net worth over time so that you have the freedom not only to meet your needs, but to also live the life or meet your desires or your dreams from time to time. And that's basically the difference. So you see that financial comfort, which is a safe place to be, and security without growth is risky. And what we say is without growth in that world is risky because disruptions happen anytime, right? You have inflation that's eroding value from time to time. We have external shocks, lifetime shocks. COVID-19 is one good example. Medical crisis is one good example that can drain your finances if care is not taken. And so you realize that that comfortable place, not just no longer is comfortable because your wealth is not growing over time. And when we talk about growing wealth over time, what do we mean? We're talking about building and investing or creating assets or building assets or investing in assets that yield positive returns over time, that compound growth and increases that net worth over time. And today we are talking about even transferring just beyond your lifetime to a generational wealth creation, meaning not only for yourself. So in this instance, you're not just thinking about yourself, you're thinking about your children, you're thinking about your children's children, right? And that mindset shift really is what we need to transform from financial comfort to sustainable wealth creation over time. And one of the things I like to ask is people will say, how do I build that wealth, right? And we know that the capital market is there. So if I go back to the definition of capital market, where we were all taught in school, where we say the capital market is a market for long-term growth, long-term investing, borrowing for the long term. And today we are talking about generational wealth. And that is long term. That is beyond 1 year, 2 years. So you have the money market, which is where you put money that you need almost on an immediate basis or less than a year or maybe just beyond a year. And that's good. But when we start talking about sustained wealth growth, then you really need to focus on the capital market, because then you are matching apples for apples, right? And that's what the capital market brings. And people always say, oh, there's so many instruments in the capital market. Where do I really invest? And that's a good thing, right? Because we have the stocks. The stocks will give you ownership rights, and that's for growth. We have fixed income. We give stability, the little growth from time to time. Your money is not necessarily reducing in value. And then we also have derivatives, which we also use for risk management, which is also an important part of the capital market as well, an important instrument. And then you have mutual funds, which provides diversification, provides liquidity, provides access to professionally managed funds. And that's very important because all these instruments meet different needs and meet different goals. And then we now start talking about goal-based investing. So if you see how you begin to just evolve over time, where you're comfortable, and then you start out with your intentional investing, and you're thinking of capital markets, and you begin to see the different instruments. But these instruments are there to meet different needs. And so when you begin to think of the different goals that you have, because when you're thinking of generational wealth, you know that in your lifetime, you still need to live well. But beyond your lifetime, there are still goals that you need to meet. So there's a house to buy, there's children education to fund, there's traveling that you need to go for. There's the trust fund probably you want to set up for your kids, where we're talking about financial literacy. And each of these instruments is there to help us meet that need. So if you're just investing for investing, you realize that you might just be shooting blanks, right? Because you can just be investing and you realize that, oh, I have this need and I'm not able to meet it because you're using the wrong instruments for the wrong purpose as well. So it becomes important for you to first identify what are your goals, and that's what we talk about goal-based investing. So it's not just about making money, it's about aligning your money with meaning, aligning your money with purpose, right? And that's where you then begin to determine, okay, so what is the best instrument that meets this, that is fit for purpose, in line with how much I have, in line with my risk appetite, and in line with the goal that I want to achieve. All that is really important in determining which instrument to buy and when to buy it and how long to hold it for in the market. But again, capital market is built on trust, right? So people always say, how do I trust that my money will be safe? And we've had scenarios in the past where, people have been cheated or people have felt swapped by the capital market. And but we shouldn't let that hold us back. And that's where we have the regulator. We have the Securities and Exchange Commission, which is the apex regulator of the Nigerian capital market. And one of the things that they are there to do is to create an enabling environment for the market to thrive. And that's why they have all these rules in place that ensures that the disclosures, investors know what exactly they are getting into. They even have the compensation scheme that compensates investors who may be rightfully swerved by legal operators in the market. So they have schemes like that available, right? And they also have a website where you can go to get information about licensed operators that you should actually be engaging with. So you see people offering all sorts of products and everybody wants to invest. But I think the first place to start is this person I'm dealing with, is that the right operator? Is this a licensed capital market operator that we trust? Because the SEC has done some level of due diligence on these individuals and companies before licensing them. So important that you always ensure you're dealing with a licensed capital market operator, like Coronation, like Access Bank. You're ensuring that you're dealing with licensed operators in the market. And then you're then sure that your money is safe to a large extent, and also have the discipline to remain. The market is a long-term game. It's not a quick rich scheme, right? It's not money that you put in today and you take out tomorrow and you think you're going to create wealth. It's a long-term game. So it comes with discipline, and it's not just about luck. Discipline and staying invested. It's better to stay invested in the market than trying to time the market. Nobody knows when the market is going to do, but over the long run, the market will always yield positive results for those who stay invested in the market. So basically, using the right tool for the right job is what makes the difference, ensuring that you're dealing with the right participants, and also ensuring that your goals are being met and are aligned with the purpose for which you are investing. I'll just stop there and then we can take it from there for any additional questions. Thank you.
Okay, thank you so much. Thank you so much, Elizabeth. Like you said, it's about playing the long game, compounding interest. It's not a short game that you put in your money and then you want to quickly run out. You might get burned. And like you also talked about investors' protection. In addition to what the Securities and Exchange Commission does, which you have said, the Securities and Exchange Commission also has a blacklist, for invest or for scrupulous, companies that tend to pose as capital market operators. And so it's important for new entrants or even those that are already in the capital market space to also always update themselves. But most importantly, all the things that Elizabeth had said, I just want to make a point here that there is none of this service that you are looking for that we do not provide at Coronation. We have the asset management business, a business that can help you with your investment, whether in money market, balanced funds, dollar and income, and fixed income funds. Whether you want to do the short term, even though we say you should stay and play the long game, we have seasoned experts, financial experts that will provide you with the requisite um, advice that you need as to what to do. Now, I have a question regarding insurance, right? What is the correlation, right, between investments and insurance? Because most people, when they talk about insurance, they just think that, oh, it's when you lose your assets, the insurance will pay you back in order for you to replace it. But considering the fact that inflation has been on the rise in the country, sometimes that payout that you're getting might not be sufficient to replace that asset. So how do you use your investments? How do you leverage with insurance in protecting your assets and also investing wisely? I hope I'm clear on my question.
Yeah, I mean, I'll really try to merge the two together because now you have moved from savings to growing your savings and it's through investment, right? Now, but we
Yeah.
know that wealth is fragile, right? And as you gain assets, these assets, the same way that you as a person are exposed to dangers, the same way your assets are also exposed to everyday life issues, right? But so we need to protect that asset. And that's why initially I talked about three things, four things. You have the stocks that helps, that gives you growth. You have the fixed income, gives you stability. You have the mutual fund that gives you liquidity and growth as well. And then you have derivatives, of course, that helps with risk management. Insurance, a derivative is like an insurance product in the capital market, but also they have insurance, which is an asset class on its own or part of the financial system that helps to protect your wealth. And it's very important. I mean, in Nigeria, we always say, oh, Jesus is the one that's keeping my wealth. But things happened. Things happen. We have you imagine that you have pulled out all your savings, you have been investing, you have this goal-based savings to buy a car, and you suddenly buy this lovely car. And as you're walking around the road, a downfall driver ramps into you. What's the downfall going to do? Just going to double left for you there and say, madam, I beg, no vex, I beg, nothing, nothing. Where do you start from? Where do you get, especially now that cars are so expensive? And that's where insurance comes in as well. Insurance helps with risk management. They help defray that cost, right? So how does insurance work? Insurance pull from different people who have insured their assets. And the principle is that out of that pool of funds, so if you have maybe 100 in a pool of funds, maybe only 3 or 4 will have a claim. And we can use the assets that have been pulled from this other 96 people to pay off those 4 people who have, suffered a loss. And that's basically how it works, right? And if I give a practical example, during COVID, we saw what happened during COVID, no, during the end SARS,
Yes.
when shops were
Yes.
being bought. Imagine as an entrepreneur, you've put your hard-earned savings to set up a shop, and all of a sudden that nobody's praying for that to happen, but that can happen anytime. And then you are back
Yes.
to ground zero. So those that had their shops and their goods insured had the leverage to start from, even if the insurance will not pay for everything, but if you give you at least an 80% to start, you're starting from a very great place, and you can easily just, come back to business as if nothing happens. That is a lifeline that insurance gives for anybody who is invested. As you begin to acquire assets, you must begin to also think of how do you protect this asset. And this insurance is just even beyond your physical assets, even your health. Begin to talk about health insurance. We're seeing situations where people all of a sudden have cancers, all of a sudden have different ailments that we are seeing, significant ailment that, drains your finances, especially if you are still in that financial comfort zone, right? And all of it. I mean, I had a friend, and at some point they had to tell themselves, like, look, that is in the hospital. We are spending so much every day, and we're not seeing improvements. And so we're just going to take him back home and just do a palliative care for him. And so that's really a sad place to be, because we all know that if we had the money, we will pump it in to see how much we can. But that's what health insurance is also very important, right? So having those little forms of backup that helps you when life throws you with those disruptions from time to time is really important. And it's a very critical part of wealth creation, which is risk management, ensuring that your risks are properly allocated. So when it comes to risk management, you can either decide to retain the risk, mitigate it through transferring it to somebody else. And that is what insurance companies are there for. So you pay them to be able to transfer your risks so that they are the ones that are now holding the risks. And if anything happens to you, they give you a payout for that. And it's really important in wealth creation. Thank you.
Thank you so much for that. I mean, that's very, very insightful, because a lot of people do not understand that insurance can be so much more, right? It's a tool that we can use to not only mitigate our risks, to protect our assets, it can also be used to multiply our wealth. And so thank you very much for that. And also to just mention here, I'm here I'm not only here as a moderator, I'm also here to sell my business, right? Coronation has an insurance business which you can access either through directly from Coronation Insurance PLC or Coronation Life Assurance Limited websites. You can also access our products via the Access Bank banking software platform. And so it's something that you're looking to considering, I mean, after attending this session, I don't see reason why you shouldn't, look at taking out a policy, an insurance policy. We have a policy that caters to everyone, whatever your need might be, whether it's life, your business, health, a life policy. We have a product that will cater to you. Now, for some people, women, it's often said that women, we have a low risk appetite, right? So how will one determine their risk appetite? And for someone looking at the different categories of risk appetites we have, what product in the capital market space can someone that has a low risk appetite invest in, consider, medium, what they can consider, what capital market products can they go for? Thank you.
Okay, so when it comes to wealth creation, I mean, we all want to be risk averse. I mean, I think that is kind of like default. The rational person, the rational human being is first risk averse. Apart from there are people who take risks in life, and you can see that. But once you begin to talk with a professional, and that's why it's good to speak with a professional advisor. And your risk appetite is made up of your, ability to take that risk and your capacity to take the risk, right? So if you have, and then look at your wealth in totality, right? If you're still very young, say you are still in your 20s, you still have a long life, right, to work and all that. Now you have the ability to take on a large amount of risks, because if anything happens, you can still work for another 30 years to make up that wealth, right? That's one part of it. But also your your attitude towards risk. Some people are just naturally, they don't even want anything to rock their boat. There are people who are risky, they take risks, they go mountain climbing, they go skiing, and all that. All those people are, they embrace risks. And so we match all of that to be able to determine where your risk appetite is. And also in line with the goals you want to achieve. Now, if you have very lofty goals, then you're going to be sat down and told that, Madam, you need to take some level of risk, because we say in finance, the higher the risks, the higher the expected reward. So if you want a higher reward, you are going to have to take some level of risk. Now, but usually you will start from the low end, and that's where everybody that first starts with investment starts with. So you start with the safe assets, which is your fixed income, your treasury bills, and then you begin to grow into your mutual funds and your ETFs, as your risk appetite begins to increase. And then as you go further, then you start going into stocks. Now, why do we say treasury bills? Treasury bills and fixed income security are more like they are guaranteed assets, which you tend to not lose any money, even though we have seen some sovereigns default in bonds in recent times. But, well, yeah, you tend not to lose money. It's a very high chance that the government will always pay you back, because at worst, what will happen? They'll print more money and pay off the debt. So it's very safe assets, but the returns are usually also quite small as well. And then you then go into your fixed income or your fixed deposits, which are with more commercial type of banks, meaning if the bank fails, probably will lose your money, but then there's the deposit insurance that caters for that. So you begin to invest higher returns, a little bit more higher, but stable returns. You get your returns as when you get your money back. Your money is invested for a particular point in time, 90 days, 80 days, 120 days, whenever, and then you can get it back. And then you begin to go into mutual funds. Now, why I categorize mutual funds are a bit less risky than stocks, because you are investing in a diversified class of assets, because you're investing in a basket of assets, professionally managed, and you can invest in either money market fund, it could be a stock fund or a balance fund, or even a dollar fund. Now we have all sorts of funds, even the ones that are tied to women and the ones that are tied to different goals, right? So all those funds are there. And the beauty of the mutual funds is that you can take back your money at any point in time. So sometimes maybe you need to stay invested for maybe 3 months, that's 90 days. And at which time, if you want your money back, the asset manager tends to pay you back your money within 24 or 48 hours, depending on the terms of the mutual fund. So yeah, you begin to invest in that. And that gives you exposure to, so imagine that you want to buy Dangote, you would like to buy Nestle, you would like to buy Seplat, you like to buy all these sexy stocks, that are making money, but really your capital is really low. But with a mutual fund, you can have access to that diversified asset class at a very low entry point. So with 5,000, I think I've seen some mutual fund with even 100 naira. So you can
5,000.
or 1,000 naira, you can actually invest in those mutual funds to meet your need at every point in time. But as you
All right.
begin to go, then you now want to talk about investing in single stocks, right?
Okay.
And of course, the stock market can be a bit volatile, but that's
Yeah.
why we say the long game. You have to play the long game, because the
Yeah.
market always have its turns. There were times pre-COVID, just at the beginning of COVID, market were down. But by the end of COVID, market was up. Today, again, the
Yeah.
market is rallying up. Early this year, it looked as if nothing was happening. So,
Yes.
I even made a mistake earlier. I was like, I'm not sure if I took out some money, but now the market is like haywire. And you're like, so you just have to play the long game, stay
Yeah.
invested,
Yeah.
consistent, maybe do a dollar cost average where every month you say this particular amount is going to this, my investment account, and this is what I'm doing. And
Okay.
as
All
you
right.
begin to grow your wealth, that's what it. So you don't the risk, then derivatives is then of course at the higher end of it, where you begin to take more risk and are
Okay.
able to do more and grow your
Oh,
wealth.
thank you very much, Elizabeth. Thank you so much. Also, just to say that we have a securities business, and so we have stockbrokers that would advise you on where to place your money in the stock market. So Atiolu, hi. I'm so sorry. I was carried away with all the nuggets Elizabeth was dishing out. So I'm coming to you now. And I think I wanted to talk about life uncertainties, and thankfully Elizabeth said something about life uncertainties. Now, we all know nobody prays to fall ill, nobody plans to die untimely. But as women, who do you think should have the responsibility for estate planning? And at what stage in life or business should it ideally begin? We all know that a lot of times when you talk to people about estate planning, they come up and say, "Oh, are you wishing me dead?" Right? My mom recently clocked 65 and she retired from the university after about 43 years of meritorious service. And then I just mentioned to her that, "Mommy, are you considering writing a will?" And you had to hear her response. And I looked at her that I can't believe that this is my mom's response. As a lawyer, my mom believes that, "Do you want me to die now?" I said, "No, Mommy, I'm not wishing you death, right? But it's just very important." So, at what point should men and women consider estate planning? At what stage in our life or business should we consider that?
Thank you, Temitope, and good afternoon to all our viewers and listeners. Thank you very much. I'm very much honored to have been asked to speak. So, in terms of at what point, I'll first start with, what is estate planning, perhaps, and not assume that we all have the same understanding. So, and it's really quite complex because it's really, and perhaps that's why your mom sort of shied away from it. And some of the things we don't realize is that we plan our estate regardless, whether inadvertently or intentionally. We take certain steps that are, in essence, planning our estate as we go along our lives on a day-to-day basis. So it's really the management of an individual or, say, a family's financial situation in the event of their death or sometimes incapacitation as well. And it usually includes perhaps the bequest of assets or interest to heirs or beneficiaries, or addressing their assets in a certain way, or the considerations like the guardianship of minor children. So taking steps as to how your interest, assets, things that you value are managed, when you're no more able to do it yourself, is what estate planning is, right? And in terms of who should then take responsibility for that, it really depends. And, our conversation today is really focused on women and, so, but nobody is an island. And we find that in terms of having those, determining how and one's estate is managed when one is not able to do so, there are various people that are involved. And individuals will initially start in terms of identifying for themselves what they feel that they want to, the assets that they feel that they have, that they want to address in an estate plan, and then to determine who are the people whose interests are intertwined with theirs in respect to such assets or such interests that they own. So, for instance, if you're talking about real estate assets, if you're talking about money, things that you hold personally in your name. So you could have conversations with your children, your spouse, and other people that you perhaps would be your beneficiaries, or people who would potentially have an interest in those assets, right? So, and then if you're talking about a business, then you should potentially be having a conversation with your business partner as to, in the event of my not being able to manage whether the shares or my interest in the business, who do you really want to pass this on to? Is it your son that I don't like, or your husband that I don't get along with? So if you can just imagine that, the decisions you make about your estate actually has an impact on different people. And that's in terms of responsibility. So the individual who owns those or holds those interests would be the one that will start. And at what point you start, it also depends on, what you do have. But as I said, we start to make those decisions on an ongoing basis in our lives, even without realizing it. So, for instance, when you decide you want to have your child in America, you have taken steps with regards to the taxes that that child is going to make. And if your family is extremely wealthy, or that child becomes somebody who's of significant means, you've planned their estate around that tax decision you made when they were born. Right? If, for instance, you have a business and you have children that go to school, in Nigeria now, all of us, many people send their children to school abroad. So whether it's for university, even in some cases for secondary school, then if there was any intention for that child, for instance, to be a successor in a family business, you have to consider that and be intentional as to how they can really take an interest in that family business, learn the skills when most of their training is external to that business. And in some cases, you have separated them from their ability to sustain an interest in that business. So, those are some of those conversations that we need to have. And then, so you have those conversations also with the key decision makers in a family. And for us as women as well, and I'll keep mentioning us as women, a lot of women also, in terms of whether it's the children, or some women are matriarchs to a family with significant wealth or resources, those decisions in terms of how those children are raised and the values, what they study, all those things are things that women influence. So responsibility for estate planning is really in the holder of the assets, and then the people who the decisions with regards to the assets can influence. And in terms of when, again, that happens, is also, it's not really time driven, but really value driven. If you have land, or you have a house, a decision has to be made in terms of that land when you pass on, right? So that is estate planning. If in terms of all the jewelry that women tend to have, in terms of all the bags that women have, decisions have to be made with regards to those assets, as to who do those things go, even in terms of clothing, all those things. And sometimes some people have things of value, such as recipes, know-how. If, for instance, you have a business on, in terms of tie and dye, and even in terms of passing on that business. One of the most important things, and I'll just round up there before is that in Nigeria, a lot of the time, people allow their businesses to dwindle before they make decisions with regards to succession planning. But in other countries, in more sophisticated countries sometimes, or more developed countries, you're able to sell that business before it declines. So for instance, you're able to sell it as a going concern. As a lawyer, for instance, if I had my own firm, I could, for instance, decide that, okay, I'm getting to 60, 65 years old, like your mom has retired, and say that before I get to that stage, I want to identify somebody who's in the same industry, who perhaps can be a successor and can buy the value that I have in that business, which would include the brand, the know-how, the business as it goes on, in terms of take my place in terms of the employees, take my place in terms of serving the partners, which are critical things of value that somebody can buy on. And then you take that money, and then you can retire on that money if you want to. And the same thing goes on for whether it's a lot of women are in fashion, a lot of women are in catering businesses. Those things can be sold as a going concern. So I think, in terms of estate planning, those are the key considerations that we have in terms of time, in terms of when, in terms of who. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Adilu. I just wanted to note here that, do you know that there are some designs, some Adire designs that are lost, that there is nobody, even in the families that were known for those designs, right, in Abeokuta, there is nobody. That knowledge was not transferred. Now imagine if they had access to this kind of education, they could have actually gotten somebody that would document that process, that technical know-how, and it could have been sold or even preserved. And now there are certain old Adire designs that you can never find in the market, simply because that technical know-how and knowledge died with the last person that had it. And I like to mention here that at Coronation, we have a trustees business. There is nothing in financial services that we don't do at Coronation. We have a trustees business and we advise on estate planning, trusteeship, wills, name it. We are going to provide it. We are available to provide the service. Okay, so let me quickly go through to Olumide. Hi, Olumide. Good afternoon.
Hi, Temitope. Good
I'm so
afternoon, everyone.
sorry.
No,
I
it's okay.
apologize once again.
It's
Okay,
okay.
now we've
Yeah.
been talking about wealth preservation. We've been talking about estate planning and what have you. So I would really like you to walk me through the key legal documents that you think as a woman I should have. There are certain, like we have previously discussed, there are certain life uncertainties that nobody plan for. Some people might just be unlucky that their husbands just pass at a very young age, right? Some they don't have the opportunity to plan, but to those women that they still have the opportunity, what are the key legal documents you think that they should have, in order to protect their current assets and their future stream? Thank you.
Yeah, thank you so much, Temitope, and thank you to the Access Bank and Coronation team for this very, very important webinar. When it comes to legal documents for protection of assets and wealth, I always like to say we start from the structure. A holistic structure that covers, that is living. I know when people talk about legacy, the first thing that comes to mind is that is doing a will, as I had earlier mentioned. But a will comes into effect after your demise. But in creating a holistic living structure, you want to think around setting up a trust. Now, if you set up a trust, a private trust that caters to you, it could be a trust for you as the wife, and the spouse can still have another trust. You can have two trusts and still link it to a family trust. But having a trust, which is a living, breathing, structure, whilst in your lifetime, is one of the very, 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 very important steps I always mention when it comes to protecting your wealth. And then, of course, the document that then comes in when you set up a trust is your trust deed. With your trust deed, you are able to determine what happens in your trust. You're able to determine how the assets in the trust will be distributed or managed in your lifetime. And it takes effect in your lifetime. It takes effect immediately. You're able to determine how your children interact with those assets in that trust. In addition to a trust deed, I would also mention a family constitution. So if we're setting up a joint trust or family trust with your husband, I'll mention, a family constitution, which really codifies of what the family is about, your values, these things that you mentioned about, the adire styling and all of that. So the values for the family, the things that are important, the core values, the core systems that the family is looking to, how the family members and even the third generation interact with the assets in the trust. All of these things can be codified in your family constitution. In addition to this, you can also, for women who have businesses, I always say that another protective document would be your shareholders agreement, for example, with your partners, your partnership deeds. If you were in paid employment, you want to start thinking around, your insurance schemes. All of those documentation are the documents that, I believe that if a woman puts together, she should be protected to a large extent. Yeah.
Thank you very much. You mentioned shareholders agreements. I've seen women do businesses with their partners, whether spouse or friend,
Yeah.
and they just say, "Oh, she's just my friend. We've been friends since childhood." Roles are not defined. You do not know what happens to the business in case of something happens to the other person. They do not even discuss, there's no discussion about how to share the proceeds, profits from the business, and what happens to the business if somebody becomes incapacitated or the person is gone. They don't know how they are going to pass on that business or whether it should be wound up. People can actually decide that, okay, after we've done this business for 40 years, because we've not been able to identify somebody that would carry on the business, someone with shared values, right? That would carry on the business. And so let's just wound up the company. You find out that, people do not have such conversations, and these are things that we should consider, because there are inherent legal risks,
Yeah.
different types of risks that might come up when you are assuming that this person is my
Is your
friend,
guy.
this person is my guy. Yeah, like that spiral song, everybody is doing a video and say, who is your
Is your
guy?
guy.
Truly, when it comes down to it, who
Yeah.
truly is your guy?
Your guy.
Shouldn't it be your trusted advisor
Mm-hmm.
that would guide you and your guy
Mm-hmm.
as to the right and
On your
proper thing
agenda.
that will protect your interest? So,
Yeah.
when we are talking about structuring of wills and trusts and all of those things, what are the things that we need to consider?
Awesome. So I like people to say, I like to say that we should look at the trust as a warehouse. One graphic illustration that comes to mind is the Konga warehouse on the Lekki Ekpe Expressway. When you come into that warehouse, especially when they're having events, you'd see that it's a massive space. Many times you find that, there are different demarcations, different stores. So I like to say that, see your trust as a warehouse for all of your assets, a warehouse that ring fences the assets you want to put in, different from the assets that you still hold in your name. Now, we know people set up trust, but not everyone puts in all their assets in the trust. So some people may still want to hold some form of assets in their personal names. But once you put it in that trust, and because a trust is a separate legal person from you. So a trust has its own life. It has it, and of course, it will outlive you because it's a corporate entity. And so that trust is able to hold assets away from personal liabilities that come to you as an individual. So if you were sued, if you are going through any reputational risk, and some damages come to you, the assets in your trust are ring fenced from it. Now, in that trust, you can then have different layers, have different structures. SPVs, I call them SPV, which are special purpose vehicles for different things. In structuring your trust, you want to have, an SPV that caters to education, because I know education is something that's really core and very key to women. You're thinking around, how am I going to fund tuition and all of those, needs for my kids. You can set that up within your trust. Set up a structure whereby you say 15% of the income from the assets in the trust are put for education. You have all of that written in your trust deed. You can also have, a philanthropic arm still within your trust. You can have your investment arm within your trust. So see a trust as a big warehouse, and then SPVs and different structures as, the mini stores within that warehouse. That's an awesome way to, protect your assets. It's within a bulk. And then, of course, in your trust, you can then also mention stuff that relates to separation. I always mention that, even though the going is beautiful at the beginning, or, during the course of your marriage, it's still important to have some separation clauses. Separation, not because of mistrust, but separation because you're also thinking of the assets going beyond your generation to like the third, fourth, fifth generation. So you want to include clauses that say certain assets remain in the trust, whether a spouse leaves the marriage or whether a spouse dies, the assets remain in the trust, and they still are beneficial for G1, G2, beneficial for the generations after you. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Olufunke. So, okay. I would like to take a couple of questions. I see that people have been dropping questions. Um, um, okay, so before I take the questions, there's a feedback form that is being projected, that is being shared on the screen. I don't know if we can all see it, but I'll ask participants to please scan the QR code in order for them to provide feedback as to how they have enjoyed the session so far. I think that the team will also put up a link, but there's the QR code. If you scan it, it will redirect you to the feedback form. Thank you very much. Okay. So I'm looking at the questions that have been asked, and someone has asked if we have any investment plan for children education? Yes, we do. At Coronation, we have different investment plans. And so, but my colleague, Chineye Peters, she's also one of the speakers. She would speak to this during her session. Then, okay, sorry, I'm going through the questions. Okay. Okay, another question about products, asking how they can open a mutual fund account for their child. Yes, my colleague Chineye is going to answer this question. So, um, okay, so I think that's what I have so far. That's what I have so far. So whilst we waiting to receive more questions from participants, please, if you have any question regarding what the speakers have spoken about, have talked about, please drop your questions and they are here to answer all your questions. So Adeolu, back to you. Okay. How does a structured Olufunke has talked about having a structured trust, right? And you also talked about estate planning. How then does a structured trust empower a woman to control the distribution of her wealth? Because I know that for some people, they always have this fear that even if they make these plans in the event where they pass before their husband, that can be overturned by their partner. So what do you have to say to that?
So is trust by its very nature avoids what is called a death event. So essentially the trust, once it is set up and it's running and ticking successfully, then it's ongoing. And whenever whatever happens to the settlor, which would in this case be, say, a woman that set up the trust who had the assets that were the assets or the interests or the things of value that are put into the trust. If anything happens to her or she passes on, that trust just continues without the death having any impact on it. The only thing that would happen is whereas she may have been contributing towards the decision making through various tools that can be used, then that contribution that she was making then passes on to somebody else. And the trustees, remember, are in place to administer everything with regards to that trust. The decisions, the trust deed, as Olufunke mentioned, would have set out, the all the objects of the trust, the various things that had to do with how the trust will be administered. There may be some other additional documents that were put in place with regards to the trust. So that really is extremely empowering, because it then means that during the lifetime of that woman, she would have seen that trust being implemented, executed, and then also she's then assured that it continues in the same fashion as she has set it up. Because remember that the assets in a trust have been passed into the trust, right? And they are held. So the thing about a trust is that legal title to those assets are transferred to the trustees. And that's why it's a trust relationship, because those trustees, and in these cases, people use like trust companies, or professional trustee companies to make sure that that element of trust, you don't have anybody that's going to make away with your assets or anybody that's going to deal in a way that is not consistent with your wishes with those assets, or that they convert or misuse the assets of the trust or anything. So all those provisions would have been made in place, would have been put in place to ensure that those decisions are made. And some of the key considerations as well in terms of the types of assets and the sort of structure that is put in place. And there's no one size fits all, by the way, in terms of the type of trust or even the type of planning that is done. And I know that we're focused particularly on trusts, right? But some people find it easier to do simple wills because they just can't contemplate the trust, or they don't have a size of estate that merits a trust. So they may decide that in terms of their estate planning, it should be wills, or they may also decide that they want to use a company to acquire assets and they have maybe a holdco structure, an SPV, or a private trust company. So there's various things or methods that can be used. But the critical thing with regards to empowering a woman and to control the distribution of the wealth is to identify the beneficiaries and to ensure that those beneficiaries are the ones that continue. And as Olufunke said, you can even have your philanthropic interest as well addressed in that trust. You can decide that you want to have, educational issues addressed for your grandchildren. And that's where the concept of having, say, a trust fund baby comes on, because some children in certain schools is the grandparents or the great grandparents, or even in some cases, and hopefully in Nigeria, we'll start to see the case where that generational wealth is transferred and you do not have a death event. So essentially, the objects of the trust keep being implemented, the instructions keep being implemented, and that is how a woman with considerable means or considerable wealth can ensure that her wishes continue to be implemented beyond her death. And in terms of the key features of that empowerment, it's really those special aspects. It gives you flexibility and control. There's a tailored structuring. There's succession and continuity. The assets are protected. And then you can also have jurisdictional flexibility in terms of how it's structured. So all those critical things provide that empowerment and ensure that you're able to take control of what happens after you're gone. And as I said, any asset can come within a trust, and all those interests, even the know-how with regards to Adire, can be articulated to say that I want to pass on this know-how to this grandchild that has an interest in whether in fashion or in the process, or I have a sizable collection of Ashoke. They're now selling what they call vintage Ashoke now for 150,000 naira, right? I wish I knew that before my mother gave it away. So it's like, there is value in many things that sometimes we don't understand, whether it's coral beads, and those are things that women particularly have an interest in that we don't realize has significant interest, even things like damask, all those things. So nobody should be in a hurry I know we're always trying to declutter, but there's intrinsic value in so many things, that we should consider in terms of how we pass them on. And I also mentioned as well about businesses as to how you sell them as well, or you allow somebody to perhaps participate in ownership, at a time when it's still viable, not when you just let it dwindle over time and then you're not able to sell it as a going concern, or sell your interest or value in it as a going concern, or put it into your trust so that trust can then appoint a manager, so that when you start to retire, the people that the trust have appointed, who are experts, by the way, it doesn't have to be your children. The experts that they've appointed can continue to be employees managing that business for you, and the income and the benefits come back into the family purse and can be distributed to your beneficiaries without them necessarily. So if you have children abroad who live abroad in another jurisdiction, they can still enjoy the proceeds because through the trust, you have managers that are starting to that are working hard to keep that business running and ensuring that business continues to thrive for multiple generations.
Thank you so much. That was very insightful. Honestly, I wish my mom had access to this kind of forum or session, because all the Swiss boil that she gave out when she was decluttering, maybe we would have retained them in the family. So women, you hear Adiolu, you don't have to give out everything. Sometimes you can actually preserve them. Those your beautiful, your handbags, you don't have to resell them for money unless it is absolutely necessary, right? Your jewelry, you can pass them on as heirlooms to your daughters or your daughters-in-law, you know. You don't just have to, it's not every time that we sell things. I understand that there are circumstances where you might need some money, urgent needs, and you might want to pawn them for some cash. But let's also consider keeping some of these things in the family for, it's also wealth preservation, right? It's a legacy. And so long after you're gone, your grandchildren or great grandchildren would actually have access and they would use them. You can see that most of these things are coming back. It's that's how it is. All these things always, they have a way of coming back. Like I said earlier, please let's scan the QR code on the screen in order for us to provide feedback. We've also dropped a link in the chat box for everyone that can see them, to complete the feedback form. Okay, so I want to go to Chine. Okay, I want to go to Chineye Peters. Hi, Chineye. I have quite a lot of questions for you. Good afternoon. How are you doing today?
Hi, Team Tope. Good afternoon. I'm doing good. Good afternoon, everyone on the call as
Okay.
well.
Okay, thank you so much, Chineye. So I have someone here who is asking that they need more explanation on mutual fund investments and whether the percentage is negotiable. I don't know if you now want to use that opportunity to
Okay.
speak to our mutual funds products and the other products that we have within the Coronation businesses.
Okay, thank you very much. And thank you for the question. So for mutual funds at Coronation, we have different kinds of mutual funds. We have our Naira funds and we have our dollar funds. And then these mutual funds are dependent on the kind of instruments you want to invest in. So, like Elizabeth had mentioned earlier, we were talking around risk profiling and the kind of risk you like to take. We have different mutual funds that are specific to your different risk appetite. So, if you're a low appetite, low risk appetite kind of person, you can go on with our money market fund, which is invested in low risk instruments. If you're someone who doesn't mind a bit more risk, you can delve into the balance fund or the fixed income funds. And each of these funds have different rates. Each of these funds have different yields actually dependent on the instruments they're invested in. And no, it's not negotiable because it's not a fixed rate and it's not a rate that is fixed by us. It's a rate fixed by the instruments in the market. So for example, the mutual funds are funds that are invested in low risk instruments such as your treasury bills. And we don't have any control over treasury bill yields. But the good thing is you can come in, is a low entry kind of fund. You can come in as low as 10,000 naira and you can get yields as high as 22%, 21%, depending on the market. And it's something that compounds. So because it's not a fixed thing, you can go as high as the market goes and you can enjoy those yields. I believe that answers the question, Tim Tokwe, but just to go on, we've said a lot today. A lot has been said on how we as women need to take our investment decisions seriously. Elizabeth mentioned the need to align our money with purpose. And it's extremely important even as women because we've spoken a lot about different things and all of this knowledge is really to help us take charge of our finances. No more frivolous spending, being more conscious and intentional about our finances, asking the right questions, speaking to the right people, experienced advisors, and making informed decisions. That's really what all we have heard today is really what this is about. And it's not just about us ourselves, it's also even for our loved ones. A number of us here on the call, Adiola also mentioned the primary breadwinner and all of that. It's very important that all of the information we've gathered here today, as we use for ourselves, we're also thinking of those around us, people that can also benefit from this information. And so every woman on this call, you can be a builder of legacy, no matter your starting point. It's simply about putting little structures in place today to protect your tomorrow. So if you are just starting out and you're just trying to invest, we can help you with the mutual funds, with our equities products. If you are one who wants to protect your wealth, we also have our trustee business that can assist you with estate planning services as well. And the beautiful thing is, you don't have to do it alone. We're here, Coronation is here, a trusted partner. We can walk you along this journey. And really, it's really about going beyond here. We've had a lot of conversations, and again, it's about taking action. It's very important that the key takeaway from here is we've learned, we've listened to the insights. Let's take action today. And you can do this different ways. On Access More, you can log into your Access More account and you can navigate to the wealth and investment management module. You can start to invest in stocks, mutual funds, and if you want to speak to certain solutions tailored to your estate planning needs, we also have our team of experienced trust advisors that are ready to engage with you after this session. So I think that's it from me. Are there other questions?
Yes, I actually have some other questions from participants here. And what I just want to say is somebody is asking how they can claim their parents' shares after their demise. For that, I don't know if they can reach out to our Coronation Securities business. They can assist with that. Then also somebody's talking about the Coronation Mutual Balance Funds interest, and I think that Chineye has already responded to that question, saying that the performance of our mutual funds is actually dependent on the market performance. We do not determine these rates. It is how the market performs that affects the performance of our mutual funds. Also, for the person that said they had recently filled out an e-mandate form, and that regarding their shares at Access Bank, what I would ask is if you can reach out to Coronation registrars. We have our contact center. If you just do a simple Google search, I can drop a chat from where I am for you. But if you do a simple Google search for Coronation registrars business, you reach out to any of the contact center numbers, they would actually assist with resolving this issue. Then also investments and asset production and protection and opportunities. We have spoken to that. You reach out to us. We are available to provide you with whatever service that you need or require. So having said that, I would like to use this opportunity to thank the participants at this webinar. You guys have been wonderful. I'm seeing the comments on the live stream, and it's okay. So the email address for Coronation registrars to use, I don't know if the participant is still on the call. If you have a pen, let me read it out. It's customercare@coronationregistrars.com. I'll take that again for those of us that want to consolidate our shareholding, or we want to claim our dividends, right? Or those that have their Access Bank shares that they want to resolve. It's customercare@coronationregistrars.com. I'll take it again, customercare@coronationregistrars.com. And I can assure you that when you send that email, we will respond to you. Our contact center is very responsive. We take our customers very seriously. So on that note, I would like to thank my participants for joining this webinar. It's been wonderful having you all on this at this session. Thank you very much. Hello, sorry, there's someone that is unmuted. Thank you. Okay, pardon that slight interruption. So as I was saying, thank you participants for joining. I hope you've had a wonderful session and you've taken something away from this session. Just like I had said previously, the goal is not only to accumulate assets, but to build a legacy that provides for our families, support our communities, and sustain us through life's uncertainties. And in that my short statement, we range of products that would cater to whatever need you have. And that will help us with the seamless transfer of our assets to the next generation. Also, special thanks to my panelists. Thank you very much from Elizabeth to Adiolu to Olufunke and Chineye. Thank you so much for coming on this session to share from your wealth of experience. You guys, you gave us practical tips and nuggets that would stay with us for as long as, sorry, excuse me. Thank you so much for um, coming on this webinar to share from your wealth of experience. We do not take it for granted. Thank you so much for your time. And also, to mention again that we have the feedback form on the screen. We really appreciate your feedback as to how we can improve this session. And also, well done to the team at the W Initiative of Access Bank and the Coronation team. You guys have been wonderful. Also, for the trustees business, sorry, I'm here to sell my coronation businesses. You can reach the trustees business at crc at coronationnt.com. crc at coronationnt.com. We also have for the asset management business, we have crc at coronationam.com. crc at coronationam.com. A as in alpha, M as to mango.com. Then for the trustees business, we have crc at coronation nt, N as in Naphtali, T as to Tabitha. So crc at coronationnt.com. You can reach out to any of the businesses. In addition to these email addresses I've reeled out, you can also start your journey in investments via the Access banking app, the Access More app. And I'm sure that once you start that journey, there's we have advisors and business partners who would reach out to you and take the steps further. Thank you very much, everyone. It's been a wonderful time having you all on this session. And on this note, I would like to bring the webinar to a close.